Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Randall, welcome back. Thanks for sitting down another week.
You are very welcome.
So Randy, you know there's three kinds of people in this world.
Yes.
People who can count and people who can't.
That's good.
There we go.
Is that the joke?
That's the joke for the week.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a good, you can guess where I got that one from? It's where...
Jordan Sittler.
No. It's where all good jokes come from.
Your children.
Nate Eisenhower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Nate.
I just threw my daughter under the bus because she is a good source of jokes. She was
Wow.
reading through a joke book a couple weeks ago and just making us laugh. So,
Oh, my.
all right, I'm going to make a note to myself. Next week, we're getting a Maddie joke.
Okay.
Okay, I'm writing it on my
On
hand.
your Evernote.
Yeah, my Evernote never leaves me. Always with me. Maddie. Great. So we were in the Sermon on the Mount. Surprise, surprise.
I know.
It's been really good. We are, right over halfway through, I think.
I'm glad you think that of the scriptures. That gives me confidence in you,
What?
that you think the scriptures are good.
Yeah, that's right. You should. You've growing confidence in me. So I got a couple of really just as practical questions as you can get this week, I think, anyway.
Excellent.
So I think they're going to be good. But let me just review or preview, a little bit review where we were. This charge from Jesus to not think about the things of this world in a way that it's so easy, especially like you said, for us in America to look at them, laying up treasures on earth. So Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 24, don't lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And then the two illustrations that he gives there, the eye being the lamp of the body, and then no one can serve two masters. And I thought one of your examples was really just point on in the way that we think about the way our emotions as a country go up and down, presidential approval ratings go up and down,
Oh, I see.
just how money can affect our day, for good or for bad. And you see it. I don't live in Philly, so as another example, I don't live in Philadelphia, but I've heard that on a Monday where the Eagles lose in the football season the previous day, people say, you can tell. People are just like, they're down, they're a little gloomy, as frustrated, but when they win, their spirits are up, And I think across America, that's how it is with our finances.
The economy.
Yeah, with the economy, if things are going well.
Yeah.
People are kind of upbeat and they have a positive outlook, and the sky's bright. But when things are heading down, we start to get anxious, we can panic, we can start to worry, and it really affects us. And I thought the presidential approval rating is probably one that it always correlates with the economy to a point. So that was good. So you ready for question number one? Okay.
Sure.
You said sometimes someone will take a job, like extra hours, or take a part-time job. So hypothetically speaking, let's say someone has a storm door to replace in their house, sliding glass door, and they're presented with an opportunity to coach a junior high soccer team and make a little extra money. Would it be wrong for them to take that job to pay for that door replacement?
No.
Okay, but how should that person think about that process?
Good.
You've got a need, you got a way to make a little extra money, but we don't, that door is only going to last so long.
That's the key. The key is that we're thinking about that door is important.
Yeah.
We need that door. I would like to cover the cost of that door by picking up some extra hours. As opposed to, how about the person who says, we really need a door, we're going to buy the door, but I'm going to cut back on my tithe.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that, I've been trying to get to for myself this week, and Michelle and I have talked about it a lot leading into Sunday, was, so how can you establish a baseline so that you know that you're not laying up treasures on earth?
Yeah.
And one way to do that, and I mentioned this on Sunday as far as who would have heard this, but in the Welcome to the Faith family class, one of the things that we do is we talk about the importance of a Christian response to giving, a Christian understanding to giving. And so if you could just start with, I know I'm not laying up treasures on earth because my priority giving is for God and his kingdom. That's untouchable. So all I'm doing is just sort of saying the quick answer is no, that
it's not wrong.
It's not wrong for that person to take on extra hours to buy a storm door, which is obviously not the same as the person saying, I'm going to take on extra hours because I really want more things.
Okay.
Right?
So what if it was something different than a storm door, such as...
Yeah, let's say something like this.
New couch.
Or I was going to say, another motorcycle. So what if I said, I really want to pick up some more money. I want to make more money because I'd like to have a newer, nicer motorcycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right or wrong? I go back to my basic formula, and this is what I was hoping we could get to today anyway, because we didn't do it on Sunday. But I thought, okay, here's my basic formula, and I did mention this, by the way, to a couple on Sunday. So my formula is something like this, according to the Old Testament scriptures and the New Testament scriptures on giving. First of all, I want to make sure that I am tithing on my gross income. Not net, but gross. God gets a percentage of our income, our gross income. Second, Michelle and I have always tried to practice. We also want to be living within our means in such a way that we always have extra for being generous to people in need. Maybe an individual or a family or a mission agency. I have such a heart for these pastors slugging. I know I mentioned this to someone the other day, and Michelle and I have talked about this a lot too. I have such a heart for these pastors in places in the world where they have absolutely nothing. And here I am in this cushy building with books all over the place and electronics and computers and software and blah, blah, blah. And there are men slugging it out with nothing. So the formula for us is baseline, tithing off our gross income. Second, living within our means so that we are able to be generous to people, to be kind to people in need, or special agencies in need, or those kinds of things. If those two things are set, now the issue of should I buy this or that is different. Because I'm not now focused on the material things at the expense of the kingdom of God. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I'm saying this is our way of trying to establish a baseline. Am I laying up treasures on earth or not? What do I value more? And remember, I did say on Sunday, if you were listening, every one of us needs to exercise godly wisdom to determine what's right for us. Because the scriptures in the Old and New Testament concerning giving are not clear enough to establish this is exactly how you ought to give and I ought to give in every single incident.
Yeah.
So we need wisdom.
All right. So I like that baseline. I'm going to play that out a little bit. So your two criteria are, am I tithing off of my gross income?
Yeah.
And do I have extra money so that I can be generous for whatever the need that presents itself?
Yep.
And you're just saying the Old New Testament, they're not clear on how much. What is clear and has become more obvious to me is that their tithe, their tenth, was a baseline for them.
Yeah, just to start.
Yeah, just a starting place. And then beyond that, there was a lot of extra giving. Yeah. And so I think I've always grown up with kind of that mindset, well, okay, let's give a tenth.
Sure.
And that's kind of like a good measuring bar, and it can be a good measuring bar. I want to make sure it's not just a checklist thing.
Yeah.
again, getting back to Sermon on the Mount, it's a heart, recreated heart.
That's
here.
right.
So I'm giving from a place of, how's 1 Corinthians put it? God loves a cheerful giver.
Yeah.
So I'm giving out of cheerfulness and gratitude. And it can be 9%, it could be 11%. But either way, I want to be generous. And I think one thing that kind of gets at is the two illustrations, the single focused eye and the two masters.
Yeah.
If you're giving until it hurts, that practice of giving keeps you from serving two masters. It keeps you from being double focused, because you can't give till it hurts. And
right. There's been a few times where, because I have not paid attention to, and Michelle knows that I don't pay attention to any of these things. So there's been a few times where at the end of the year, I look at the report and I go, wow. And I smile to myself, wow, what could I have done with that money that I gave to the Lord's work? You go to the end of your year and you look at that lump sum and you go, wow, I could have.
Yeah, sure. I've had that thought.
There's the that laying up for yourself, the treasures on earth. You become fixed on my comfortable American lifestyle, which, so I, just to be clear about, I really appreciate the person bringing up a specific like that.
Yeah.
Because the question does go back, as you said, to the heart. And so if you were thinking about your own relationship to this text, are you laying up treasures on earth? You might, or go to 20, lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. Are you doing that? One of the things you can ask yourself is, remember, am I honoring God with my giving? The key is honor. Remember, the Old Testament word for that is the word that's translated heavy. So does your giving display this fact that you think God is a weighty person? Does your giving suggest that?
Yeah.
And that's where you really want to start. And that's one of my favorite ways to analyze giving, is to go back. And I think that word, by the way, is coming from Proverbs. And so, you're honoring the Lord, let's say, with your first fruits, might be the actual reading of one of those texts. So you can ask yourself that, am I honoring God with my giving? But then remember from Sunday, not just not only your checkbook, but also your calendar. So you can do the same with your calendar too. Just ask yourself, does my calendar reflect any kingdom priorities?
Yeah, that's a super practical thing to do, because I forget who I said it to, but if you look at your credit card statement or your checkbook, whatever you can log, wherever you log that stuff, and your calendar, you can tell a lot about what a person prioritizes.
You can.
If you saw mine, if I saw yours, and anyone else saw mine, they would know what's important to me. Yeah,
the regulars are there.
Yeah, they would know what some of the hobbies are that I have, what I spend my money on, where I devote my time.
Exactly.
So the second question here was just really right along that same line, but it's one that I know folks probably struggle with a little bit more than a storm door, and it's buying a car. So how do we buy a car?
So let's use the same formula, okay? Except we'll add one snag to it. Not a snag, one other element. Let's use the same formula. Actually, and again, bless her heart, Michelle thinks through these things a lot and has a lot of good insight. So when she said, well, when we're trying to buy a car, should we buy a less expensive car? When we're buying clothing, should we buy less expensive clothing? When we buy, there's a couple of ways to look at that. All right. So before I forget, one is value. I'm one of the books that I am trying to read through, but I'm not making a whole lot of progress, is, I think the title is Fewer Better Things. The argument of the book is that we're actually not wise stewards if we buy cheap made items. So that may not be the best angle for a Christian to say, I'm going to buy cheap.
Right.
As far as a disciple maker.
Yeah.
That may not be. So I just throw that out there. Again, use wisdom in this. However, watch how the formula works for me. Okay. So for me, is my tithe solid the way we want it to, the way Michelle and I want it to be?
Yeah.
Is it solid? Is it in the right place? Okay, check. Yes. Are we living within our means so that we can still be generous when the need is presented to us?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just give me the benefit of the doubt. Check.
You
Ask
got
Michelle. Check. Now the car. I remember Bob Minyard, bless his heart, Bob Minyard. Some of you remember Bob. I remember Bob saying, I wanted so badly to have a red Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a red Mustang. If you remember Bob, he was such a neat, and neat's not even, that's not even an appropriate,
No.
that's not a good English word for him at all. He was a magnificent person
There you go.
in so many ways. Christian, citizen, all of these things. Just a great guy to be around.
Mm-hmm.
But he always wanted a red
Mustang.
And if I remember, it could have been a red convertible Mustang, but I don't remember what the top was. But I do remember him saying to me, I never felt like I could do that because of what other Christians would think.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what he was feeling is what a lot of us feel in the
Mm-hmm.
Christian community is we have to explain ourselves if we have the means to have nice things.
Mm-hmm.
Add to that the wrinkle of culture. So, there is a sense in which I'm living in this particular location. So when I look around this church constituency, what's being driven out there?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just pointing at the parking lot.
Yeah.
But what's
Minivan.
lots of minivans,
Love them.
but there's other vehicles of all makes, models, size, and you
Yeah.
name it's out there. So there is sort of a being culturally sensitive as well. But with the baseline in place, check. Am I a materialist because I buy a nice, expensive car? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
God has blessed me. I'm playing a role now, although this is true, but I'm playing a role like if I was a super wealthy Christian, I'm playing
Mm-hmm.
a role and saying, God has blessed me with wealth. I am honoring him with my giving, the way I check those boxes off. So he's not concerned that I have a nice things.
Right.
The same with clothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Although there's other Christians that might say, no, actually, I can't afford what now I hear is like $100 jeans.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't buy $100 jeans, I don't think. But
Goodness.
someone might say, I can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make them a spiritual person necessarily. Or, in other words, it does come down to the heart and what's our attitude towards God and his kingdom. And it should affect the way in which we treasure these things, the car,
Mm-hmm.
the clothes, the shoes. Shoes would be another one. I could spend a fortune, I think, on shoes.
Yeah, for real.
And so, anyway, I'm just trying to make an attempt to say a lot of it depends on, go back to that formula.
Yeah.
Does that help you?
So you can be a poor person, relatively speaking, and still have treasures on earth that you're quite frankly, you're out of line.
Yeah.
And you can be a rich person,
Yeah.
10 times the salary,
Yep.
but be in the
Yep.
right place.
Yeah.
Heart-wise.
And one of the conversations I had after church was right down that line where it's not just wealthy people that Jesus is addressing in this text.
Mm-mm.
Both the not so wealthy and the wealthy, they all potentially can have hearts that want these earthly things so badly that they take over and control like the master.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what your economic status is.
Right. Yep. So it's something for all of us to hear. But in America, for sure, the temptation, and I think it came through a little bit in that prayer that I found, and that was just an excerpt. That wasn't even the whole prayer.
That was such a great prayer, man. I
It
was really listening and praying it.
It was actually titled A Prayer for Shopping. And so it was 3 times that length.
Yeah.
But more detailed to shopping sections of it.
So
And I took
good.
those sections out, but
Appropriate.
yeah, but we just, that temptation that if I buy this, if I wear this, I'm going to be viewed more successfully. There's all kinds of just sinful tendencies that come up when you talk about materialism. But I liked how that prayer closed. The guy wrote, "Freeing us, Lord, free us from a service to things by daily increasing our devotion to you."
Man, and so look
That's
at
how you battle.
and you cannot serve God in money. And here's this great prayer saying, thank you for freeing us up so we could serve you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So this was a very practical thing, a text that I think is going to hit us, in like you said, in America in a way that we need to pay attention. I don't have any other questions, but do you have any other thoughts to flesh this out a little bit?
Yeah, only to say, look, that the teaching is simple as far as what is Jesus saying.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to want to keep valuable things safe that belong to this earth. That was the repetitive word here, this laying up treasure, that wordplay, that Greek wordplay. It is critical to just look at this text and say, I know I'm serving God, not money, because, and here's my proof.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. If you're serious about walking with the Lord, you cannot follow him and violate this particular text. And we've been saying every week, right in the readings, that chapter 5:20 is not optional. That righteousness that must exceed that of the scribes and the Pharisees, that is required. And part of that ultra righteousness is I need to be able to come to the end of this reading and say, I am a God server.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows in the way in which I think about the things in this world. They are not controlling me.
Yeah.
They're not my master. God is my master, and it shows in my lifestyle. And the fact that we are Americans and most of us are comfortable makes this text very, very difficult. Yes, but the other thing is, remember that historically, we would say that in the American church, hardly anybody tithes. I mean, let's just let that sink in. Let that just sink in a little bit. Has Jesus touched on a nerve? Has he touched a nerve? Has he hit an important part of following him? Mm-hmm. He has, because you can analyze virtually every local church, and you would be appalled at the number of people who tithe off from their gross income.
Mm-hmm.
And if people would just do that baseline that I talked about, if they just did that, church budgets would be radically changed. They would be transformed, and good local churches with those new budgets would have tons of money available for, especially a church like ours, to take on all kinds of disciple-making, kingdom enterprise things. So it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And maybe my final thought is, like, the payout on the other side, it feels like materialism, having things, is really going to just amp my life up and take it to another level.
Nice.
But quite frankly, it does the opposite. And if you've been overwhelmed by those things and the materialistic mindset, you know that you're never satisfied with those things. They only just keep you in the bondage of things of this earth. So when you're actually able to let go of the financial piece and the concern over what you have and what you don't have and storing up things, it's actually a much more freeing, joyful way to live. And that's what Jesus is pointing us to.
Right.
And but it's not easy.
Your comment about the payoff is so helpful, though, because this is the contrast between on earth versus in heaven, the treasures. Which one is more valuable? And as you said, wealthy, if you've read anything about from a super wealthy person, if they're honest when they're asked, how much money is enough, the common refrain is always one more dollar. So
Rockefeller, I think, was the quote,
which was one of the big ones. But you're right, Jonathan. The payoff for us is huge.
Good. All right, so we've gone a little long again this week, but that's okay. This is really good. Good conversation. It's going to be shorter than last week's, I think.
Okay, good.
So that's good. And
that'll make Ray Newland happy.
I'm sure
and Andy Mumper.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Makes them feel a lot better about themselves. So great. Well, keep the questions coming in, and we'll get to them as best we can and hash them out here. So hopefully that was helpful to you. It's really our prayer coming in that this would be an opportunity for you to just digest and process the sermon from Sunday a little bit further, and then next week we'll be in the Bible again. Matthew.
We will.
Yeah, 6:25.
Yeah.
My subtitle says, "Don't be anxious."
It's a good subtitle.
Are we going to finish the whole chapter?
I'm hoping.
6? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy Sunday, though. We got the Smiths, Brian
Yeah.
and Lori.
Yeah, we do. We've got Smiths coming up.
Baby
Dedication.
Babies.
Child.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the Swigert girls.
Oh, wow.
Swigert ladies.
Little KJ and is it Kendall?
Kendall and
Wow.
Kinsley, yeah.
Wow.
Friends Day's coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, invite your friends out to that. September 18th.
Yeah, and check the Realm. If you check that Realm post too, and add your prayers to ours for this growing list of potential invitees.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we're on a mission together. Thanks for listening. And again, we hope this is helpful. And Randy and I will see you on Sunday. We're going to be here, right?
Lord willing.
We're going to be here. All right.
Lord willing.
Love you guys. See ya. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.